Hello, hello, ChangeMaker family. It's Erica. Welcome to another happy Monday of ChangeMakers. I'm so thrilled to be with you. We are here every Monday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, celebrating changemakers from across the globe, celebrating those who are doing amazing things in the organ donation and transplantation space. We're continuing the From Trauma to Triumph series today, and I can't be more happy to have someone who has had so many tremendous strides internationally, here in the U.S. and way, way, way outside of our borders. Canada, Australia, you name it, she is out there doing it. And I would love to welcome Ms. Valen Kiefer. She's here, she's joined us, and let's get her on. Hello, Alexandria Allen. Thank you so much for joining us. Another happy Monday. Don't forget to check out Alexandria. She has an awesome show called Spice TV. You have to check her out. And there she is.
Hi.
And all her radiance.
Should I turn my camera sideways?
However you want, however you feel best.
Okay, because
feel?
I don't want my head cut off.
Yeah, my head's cut off somehow.
Okay, let me see if I can get, I'll see what you think. I'll turn sideways. I don't know what's going to be best. I think the box is just small.
There you go. What do you think?
Yeah, that'll be good.
Let's go gorgeous. Doesn't matter if you're sideways.
Oh gosh, thank you.
How's it going out there in Southern California?
Good. Actually, we had rain and hail today, which is crazy. And then the sun came out this afternoon, which is lovely. So now we have some sunshine for this.
Rain and hail. Wow, it sounds like Cleveland. Rain, oh, gray. Well, at least we had some sunshine recently, so it's been going really well. Well, I'm so happy to have you on. I can't believe that we're finally talking live. I know it's been a long time planning all of this, but you know, your story is, I mean, from 5 years old. Why don't you tell everyone where you're from? You're from Auburn, California. Is that where you were born and raised?
I grew up in actually York, Pennsylvania, and then my husband and I moved out here to Northern California, and we've been here now for almost 12 years. So this now feels like home.
Okay. So your childhood began in Pennsylvania. So
Yeah.
Let's go back to your earliest memory of when you had to deal with any type of illness. How old were you when you first realized that illness was going to be a huge part of your life?
Well, actually, my first memory was when I was 5 years old when I had my first grand mal seizure. So that's when my health journey began real young as a child. And I actually still have epilepsy to this day. So it's pretty much all I've known, which in some ways has been good because I've learned a lot throughout this journey to continue to deal with future health hiccups. But it's started at 5 and then went on from there with additional health challenges.
So as your health challenges began, you're 5, you're having seizures, so your parents are already on notice. So at 11, you were diagnosed with polycystic kidney disease. Tell us a little bit about that, and how did you come down with that? Is that something that's in your family? What is that? Can you tell us about that, please?
Sure. Yeah. I inherited polycystic kidney disease from my mom's side of the family. So it's a hereditary disease and you have 50% chance of passing it on. And in our family, it's been really prevalent. And we can go back, trace it back as far as 5 generations. And in my case, I've really had a severe presentation of it.
So when it started, you said 5 generations, you can trace it back.
Mm-hmm.
So it skipped everyone except you, or who else in your family had it before you that had some type of knowledge of how to deal with it, or some knowledge of what you were in for once you were diagnosed?
My mother has it. She's 65 years old and doing fairly well. And she's the oldest to survive in our family. Her mom passed away when she was 53 and I never met her. My brother has it. He has 4 children. We know of one of his children, my nephew, who has PKD. And you can just keep going back in our family history as far as just generation after generation of people enduring this. So we had definitely had a higher percentage than the standard of 50%.
And so, what is your life like? You're diagnosed at 10 years old. What are you expecting? Did they tell you you had like 4 years to live? What was the prognosis? Did you feel like, your life was over at that point? You were 10. So, what
Yeah.
did doctors see when they finally diagnosed you?
Well, there's no cure for PKD. And at the time when I was diagnosed, there wasn't a treatment either. And I was kind of given not just the best advice. I was told that it probably wouldn't affect me until late 40s to early 50s and to pretty much not worry about it. And for me, that wasn't the case at all. And of course, it would have been really nice to have been given more education than that. That way I could have been prepared for what was basically right around the corner for me.
And what was right around the corner for you? Did you know what was coming, or did you just, what was your life like? Once you were diagnosed, were you still able to play and run around and be joyful with other children, or were you immediately confined to some new restrictions based on the diagnosis?
Well, with having little knowledge of the disease, I didn't know symptoms or what would come in the future for me. And with polycystic kidney disease, you can have high blood pressure. And that's actually how they diagnosed me, is I had really high blood pressure, and they did an ultrasound and saw that both of my kidneys were polluted with cysts. And with PKD, your kidneys can get to the size of footballs and be covered with cysts, and then function deteriorates. And that's when you need dialysis or transplantation. So I didn't know any of these complications that could happen. So I was really just thrown into the disease when they came up. And I had just really bad cyst bleeds that put me in and out of the hospital a lot. So I was a joyful child and have wonderful parents who loved me and supported me. And but there were definitely things that I couldn't do because of the disease. Like I couldn't play sports or play in gym class, and had to sit on the sidelines a lot because just even getting bumped into could cause a cyst to bleed and would have a hospital stay. So I decided, okay, I'll do choir and musical since I couldn't play sports. So I did that and really enjoyed doing it. And an example of how fragile my kidneys were is I had a role where I had to pretend to faint. And so I was on stage, pretended to faint, just a slight little bump fall on the ground. And the next day I had cyst bleeds and was sick from doing that. So that's just how fragile things were at the time. And I didn't, even though we had it in our family, we didn't really talk about the disease. And so I didn't have anybody that I knew outside of myself and my mom and my brother. And it's kind of wild how the voice that I've become today, from the fact of how voiceless I was as a child, and how, we just didn't talk about it at all.
Right. So the thing is, and what many people may not know, is that while you were diagnosed at 10, 11, you actually didn't need to have a kidney transplant until you were 35. That seems like a long stretch of life, right? So my phone's sleeping too. So that's a long stretch of life, right? Where you're not needing dialysis, you're not needing to, go into the hospital and stay for long periods of time. Is that right? Were you were able to live quite a long time with the disease? You were just restricted, or were you experiencing illness throughout that period?
I experienced illness all throughout growing up. So I was actually in and out of the hospital a lot because of the disease. And like my first half of my senior year was in the hospital because of cyst bleeds. And I needed my first transplant when I was 19. So I did go on dialysis when I was 18 and was on dialysis for around 7 months. So I had a lot of issues growing up, and then it really hit hard when I started college. And that's when I was in the hospital for about a year, and they made the hard decision, but necessary decision, to take both of my kidneys out. They were technically working 60%, but just the complications and the cysts continuing to bleed led to them taking my kidneys out. And then I was immediately put on dialysis until I was fortunate to receive a living kidney donation when I was 19. And it was in my mid 30s that I had received my second transplant, which was a liver.
Right. Okay. I misspoke there. I was thinking that it was your kidney transplant when you were 35. So it was 19. That's right.
Yeah.
19 first kidney transplant. But then once you had your kidney transplant, you still experienced these cyst bleeds, or you were given some relief between the time when you had your first kidney transplant and your liver transplant. Were you given some relief, some new in your life once you had that transplant?
Yeah, I did amazing after my kidney transplant. So both of my kidneys with the cysts were taken out. So I no longer had cyst bleeds, and this disease can't come back in a transplanted kidney. So I did really well for like 14 years, I'd say. And I was able to work full time, get married, just live an extraordinary life. You still manage taking around 20 pills a day and living immunosuppressed, and all of that comes with its own challenges and responsibilities. But I really did amazing for a long time. And then it was about the fall of 2016 when I started to get really sick again. And it wound up that my kidney disease impacted my liver, and then I needed a liver transplant, which was just really shocking to myself and my family.
Right. And that was at 35. But one thing, before you got a liver transplant right at 21 years old, which I find is highly fascinating about your story, is that when you were just 21, you decided to start a support group. And this is really what launched your speaking career, your career now that has you going across international borders, inspiring others. So, what made you decide you were going to do a support group, or that you had the skills, or that you had the knowledge at just 21 to go out there and start a support group? Well,
I think it was everything I had been through up until that point, combined with the lack of support that I had and knowing the difference it would have made in my life. So I think
mhm.
after kidney transplant, all that I had gone through, I thought to myself, my goodness, I don't want anybody else to go through anything like that alone. And there has to be something out there. And there wasn't anything in my community. There was no support for PKD. And then that's when I just thought, well, if it doesn't exist, I'll build it. And it was just amazing. It was just, I think just following my heart as far as that time point of what to do. And it was so fun. It was early 20s. I was sitting on the floor in my apartment. I received a contact list from the PKD Foundation of the local people in my area on the mailing list. And I just called them one by one. And I introduced myself. I told them my story and that I was thinking of starting a support group, and asked if I did, if they'd come.
Mhm.
And they came. And that's just kind of where everything started. And then now it's been 18 years of doing this work, and one thing has naturally led to the other, from creating that support group to organizing fundraising walks and educational seminars, and then starting to speak and write and work with organizations. And it's just unfolded really beautifully and naturally over the years.